হাই ক্লাসরুম নিবেদনে NTAE সলিউশনস।
নমস্কার, দেখছেন হাই নিউজ NTAE সলিউশন হাই ক্লাসরুম নিয়ে আমি সৃজিতা রয়েছি আপনাদের সঙ্গে। আজকে আমাদের বিষয় হলো ইংরাজি, আর আমার সঙ্গে রয়েছেন মৃণালিনী দত্ত মহাবিদ্যাপীঠের ইংরেজির অধ্যাপক অম্লান গায়েন। স্বাগত জানাবো স্যারকে আমাদের অনুষ্ঠানে।
নমস্কার। হ্যাঁ, নমস্কার সৃজিতা। Thank you, Srijita, for your kind introduction. Before embarking on my topic, I'd like to convey my heartfelt gratitude to some of the reputed persons who are related to this kind initiative. To start with, I would like to thank our GB President of our college, Srimati Chandima Bhattacharya Madam, for being the pillar behind all our endeavors. Thank you to our respected principal sir for being the greatest strength of our college, and thank you to the e-broadcasting committee and all its members for their relentless effort and for making this possible. And to take a special name, the convener of the committee, Dr. Rina Bose Mitra, our dearest Rinadi. Thank you to her. And I might miss out names. Thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity in this beautiful classroom. And thank you, Srijita, once again. And if everything permits, I can go on to the topic directly. Okay. Hello everyone who are listening to me today. I would like to talk about the origin and development of dramatic monologue with special reference to Robert Browning. I am sharing my screen. Is it visible, Srijita?
Yes.
Okay. Myself, Omlan Gayen, faculty Mrinalini Dotto Mohavidyapith, Department of English. Today, I would like to talk about the origin, development of dramatic monologue with special reference to Robert Browning. The terms, the words seem difficult, but let me tell you that I would like to tell you a story, the story of the development of a genre called dramatic monologue. Just as a story has its protagonist, other characters, conflicts, dilemmas, antagonistic attitudes, and at the same time, we will take enjoyment from it. We will take thrilling episodes, and it stimulates to think further. Similarly, I am talking to you a story, and the story is about the dramatic monologue. And before going to the topic directly, it is imperative to know or to clarify certain ideas about the concepts of other genres. Why these genres are important? Because these genres to some extent contributed to the development of the dramatic monologue, and they somehow intersected each other, and by intersecting they are contributing some elements to the development of the dramatic monologue. This is my I am turning on to my first slide. Sorry. This is the first slide, and this slide talks about what is monologue. Dramatic monologue is a compound words with the assimilation of both dramatic and monologue. Dramatic comes from the drama, and monologue comes from another genre. So monologue is another genre. Monologue is a term used in a number of senses, with the basic meaning of a single person speaking along with or without an audience. Most prayers, lamentations, much lyric belong to this category. But apart from this, there are 4 categories of monologue, monodrama. Number one, monodrama, as in Strindberg's The Stronger. Uh, Another one, soliloquy. For instance, the Moore's self-revelations in Othello, solo addresses to an audience to a play. For instance, Iago's explanations to the audience in Othello. And number four, the dramatic monologue, the most important one, the most representative one, which I am going to discuss today. A poem in which there is one imaginary speaker addressing to an imaginary audience. Think about these two words, the imaginary speaker and the imaginary audience. Here, the identity of the speaker and the identity of the hearer cannot be clearly mentioned. They are imaginary, they are fictitious, as best exemplified in the poetry of Robert Browning, My Last Duchess. Another term and another genre which is lyric. Lyric is to some extent related to the monologue, and the Greeks defined a lyric as a song to be sung in accompaniment with a lyre. It is still a song. Sometimes the term is used to describe a poetry, a particular type of poetry, in order to distinguish it from narrative and dramatic kind of verse. And it is usually short, and it usually expresses the feelings, thoughts of a single speaker. And that's why it is related to the dramatic monologue. And that's why it is related to the single speaking person or the speaker. And it is this particular sentiment that is particularly important for the development of the dramatic monologue. And this is an example of a perfect lyric by the poet John Clare. And the poem goes like this. If you look at the poem carefully, you will understand the speaker is uttering his words. The speaker is uttering his inner thinking. The speaker is unraveling his inner thoughts to the hearer. And it is the expression on the part of the lover to his beloved. The secret I loved thee, though I told thee not, right early and long. Thou art my joy in every spot, my theme in every song. And when I saw a stranger face where beauty held the claim, I gave it like a secret grace, the being of thy name. So the poem actually talks about the earnest desire, the covert desire on the part of the speaker to his hearer, to his beloved. And the conception of the beloved and the presence of the beloved is not clearly felt. And that is the most important point. Actually, the poet is addressing to the beloved, but the beloved is not there. And he is imagining that the beloved will be there, and the poem or the song or the lyric is addressed to the beloved. But here, if we critically analyze the poem, we will understand the hearer or the interlocutor is not actually present. That's why the poem is addressing to the hearer only. In this slide, I am discussing about the concept of soliloquy. This is also a typical genre, and it is related to the drama. Soliloquy is the act of talking to oneself, whether silently or aloud. In drama, it denotes the convention by which a character alone on the stage utters his or her thoughts aloud. Playwrights have used this device as a convenient way to convey information about a character's motives and state of mind for the purposes of exposition of the character. And this device is essential for the later development of the dramatic monologue. Because if you go through a particular essay by Phillips Hobsbawm, who also described the rise of the dramatic monologue, he pointed out that it was the soliloquy that is solely responsible for the production, for the development, for the perfection of dramatic monologue. And here I would like to show you a soliloquy. And this famous soliloquy is taken from Macbeth. And Macbeth, after the death of Lady Macbeth, soliloquizes, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, creeps in this pretty face from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that starts and frets in this his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So here the speaker is uttering his inner thoughts, his interior thoughts, his spontaneous thoughts alone on the stage. And by uttering these thoughts, he is expressing himself. He is unraveling his innermost thoughts to the audience, to the spectators. And that's why soliloquy is important for revealing, for excavating the innermost thoughts of the speakers. This is another device which is used along with the soliloquy in a drama, and which is usually short. It is also addressed to the audience, and it also reveals some of the characteristics of the speaker. Okay, I do not go to the details of this aside. I just want to point out one aside from Macbeth, where Macbeth takes the opportunity to utter this aside. Macbeth, Glamis and Thane of Cawdor, the greatest is behind. And when he is addressing to Banquo, and by addressing Banquo, he is uttering something, and this uttering comes out in the form of an aside. Do you not hope your children shall be kings? When those that gave the Thane of Cawdor to me promised no less than to them. Now, so far I am discussing about 2 or 3 other genres, and these genres are intersected each other, and these genres are responsible for the development of the dramatic monologue. And it is now time to compare them and to understand them, why they are different from one another, and why and what is their common point, what is their point of similarity. Okay. This is the graphic difference between the 3 genres: aside, soliloquy, and monologue. And these graphic differences between these genres are sufficient enough to understand how they are different and what is their point of similarity. Aside is usually short, and it also reveals characters to some extent. In contrast to the soliloquy is a longer speech on the part of the speaker, where he reveals his characters, most importantly, and monologue is where the character speaks at length to another character. This slide also discusses or describes about the minute differences and the similarities between these 2 genres, monologue and soliloquy. This is a difference between aside and soliloquy. I do not go to the details, as I have already told you. Now, we come to the main portion of our story. I would like to cover 4 stories of the origin and development of dramatic monologue. But today I would like to discuss with one story. And the story is the Claude Howardian version of the development of the dramatic monologue. Claude Howardian version. Claude Howard, in his phenomenal essay, The Dramatic Monologue, its origin and development, traces the development of dramatic monologue and divided his entire essay into 6 well-defined sections. In section 1, which is the introductory section, where he discussed about the importance of the typical study of genres rather than the chronological study. In this section, he discussed that the present movement in literary study is characterized by intensive study of types rather than the chronological periods, and studying each as a complete unit within itself. And it is because of the 2 reasons. The literary spaces are disentangled from the confused and obscured material for centuries, and their independent histories are understood. The essential continuity of literary development is emphasized. Therefore, more importance is given to the typical study rather than the chronological study. Then he talked about the neglect of the dramatic monologue, partly to its recent development and partly to a lack of proper appropriation of its significance. This is the second section. This section is also important. Here, Howard pointed out certain similarities and dissimilarities between or among different genres in order to clearly pinpoint the strict and the disciplined characteristics of the dramatic monologue. The first one is he characterized the characteristics of dramatic monologue as or it is better to say that dramatic monologue comprises of three elements: the occasion, the speaker, the audience or the silent interlocutor. And next, he goes to explain the difference between dramatic monologue and epic. What is epic and what is dramatic monologue? Epic is a long narration of events rather than dramatic monologue. Dramatic is a long, uninterrupted speech, but which is usually small, which is usually little in scale. The spirit of the epic is quite different from a dramatic monologue, and the epic upholds the national and the universal consciousness reflected upon an audience. But in context of the dramatic monologue, the individual speaker, the person, is unfurling, the person is opening up his own inner thoughts and emotions. And in this way, these two genres are different from one another. Next, he discussed about the difference between lyric and monologue, as I have already told you. And in the third section, he discussed about the difference between drama and dramatic monologue. Drama is a bigger enterprise, and dramatic monologue is one part of drama. And it is more akin to the soliloquy rather than the entire drama. Drama comprises of a number of characters, and it has a beginning, it reaches to the climax, and then it gradually declines and reaches to the catastrophe. But in context of the dramatic monologue, the speaker unfurls his ideas in a historic moment, in a dramatic moment, and the speeches of that particular speaker goes on for a length, and in between this conversation, in between this monologue, the speaker unravels his own inner thoughts. The next relationship between the dramatic monologue and dialogue, they are quite different in their spirit. Dialogue is a form of conversation or exchange between characters, but in context of the dramatic monologue is the one uninterrupted speech on the part of the speaker. And the last similarities and dissimilarities between dramatic monologue and soliloquy, as I have told you in my earlier slides. In his third section, Howard applied the mutation theory of De Vries into the development of the dramatic monologue. And by describing this theory into the dramatic monologue, he divided the entire development into two definite periods: the period of conscious art and the period of unconscious art. And what is unconscious art? What is conscious art? The unconscious art is a kind of art where the writer or where the poet writes something with a spontaneous impulse. He is writing something with his imaginary conceptions. He is totally oblivious of the form of that particular genre. His sole responsibility in this case is to picturize, is to depict what he sees, what he conceptualizes. This period is called the unconscious period of development. And what is conscious period of development? When a writer writes something out of his imagination, but at the same time, the writer is aware of the form of what he writes. Here, the writer is responsible for perfecting both the forms and the content. He is not only guided by his imaginary principles, he is also aware of the external quality of his writing, that is the form. And here, he truly juxtaposes the two elements, that is the form and the content together, to make a beautiful composition. So this is the difference between conscious and unconscious art of development. And based on these two divisions, Howard demarcated the development of the dramatic monologue into two phases. One is the period of unconscious construction of dramatic monologue. It extends from the origin of the genre to the use of Robert Browning in the Victorian period, or it is termed as pre-Browning development of dramatic monologue. And the second period of unconscious construction of dramatic monologue, from its use by Robert Browning to the present time, or post-Browning development of a dramatic monologue. In pre-Browning development of dramatic monologue, Howard explained the history of dramatic monologue. And by delineating this history, he pinpointed the medieval period first. And the most representative writer, most representative poet of this particular period was Chaucer. And Chaucer's poem, To the Rosamund, if I read the poem, you can clearly get the idea why the poem is an approximation towards a dramatic monologue. Madam, ye been of all beauty shrine, as far as circle is the mapper mountain, for as the crystal glorious ye shine, and like ruby bend your cheeks rounded. Here the lover is praising his beloved. Here the speaker is prominent. The presence of the speaker is prominent, but the speaker is addressing to an imaginary hearer or the interlocutor. And it is not clearly stated. So this is the burgeoning phase. This is the embryo phase of the dramatic monologue. Next, he talked about other poets and their poetry and how they are contributing to the slow development of dramatic monologue. And I do not go to the details of the poetry of each poets. I just occasionally mention the names of the poets. Sir Thomas Ward's sonnet, Christopher Marlowe's sonnet, The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. In these poems, another poem of Sir Walter Raleigh, George Tarberville's poem, John Suckling's poem, A Barber, Michael Drayton's sonnet. In these poems, we see that the prominent present or the prominent or distinct character of the speaker, not the hearer. And some of the poems show subtle tendency of the presence of the hearer or the silent interlocutor. Now we come to the most important part of the Elizabethan period. This period is solely important for the advancement of towards dramatic monologue. The most important writer of this period is William Shakespeare. Shakespeare's sonnets also delineated with the distinctive characteristics of dramatic monologue, as his sonnets are addressed to the 4 different kinds of persons. Since we mentioned the 4 different kinds of persons, it is evident from the sonnets of Shakespeare that there will be the presence of 2 or 3 distinct speakers. Some of his sonnets are addressed to his fictitious male friend. Some of them are addressed to his patron, and some of them are addressed to the dark lady imaginary, and some of them are addressed to the QP.
আচ্ছা, আমি একটু থামাবো, আমাদের সময় একদম শেষের দিকে, একটু দ্রুত শেষ করার জন্য অনুরোধ করব।
Okay. Next, we will go to the another poem of another French poet, Charles Fontaine, and this poem also shows to some extent the development of towards dramatic monologue. Next, the section 4. This section deals with the specific characteristics of the particular age, as the age of Elizabethan period, and then after the Elizabethan period, a reaction set in against the kind of development of dramatic monologue. Because of the classicism. Classicism was in favor of a conformity and restraint, but dramatic monologue needs the flexibility, the freedom, and that's why classicism was the antithesis of dramatic monologue. And as a result, the succeeding periods or centuries after the Elizabethan period were not remarkable for their production of the dramatic monologues. And these are the poets. Here we see Thomas Campion, Samuel Johnson. One remarkable poet of this period is Thomas Burns, and he in his poems we will find some of the elements of the dramatic monologue. Then we come to the Romantic period. Romantic period is not totally antithetical or totally hostile to the development of the dramatic monologue, And in this period, we will find a few development of this geometric monologue forms. Next, we come to the last
স্যারকে
period.
কিন্তু এবারে আমাকে থামাতেই হচ্ছে কারণ একদম শেষে আমরা পৌঁছে গেছি। আমরা
Okay.
আশা করব যে পরে আবার আপনি বাকিটা নিশ্চয়ই পড়ানোর সুযোগ পাবেন ছাত্রছাত্রীদের।
Okay, okay.
পাশাপাশি স্যারকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ জানাবো এত সুন্দর করে বোঝানোর জন্য। আশা করবো ছাত্রছাত্রীদের এর থেকে অনেকটাই উপকার হবে। এত সুন্দর করে আপনি পিপিটি শেয়ার করে বোঝালেন। আরো একবার অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ জানিয়ে আজকের মতো হাই ক্লাসরুম এখানেই শেষ করছি। পরবর্তী নিউজ আপডেটের জন্য চোখ রাখুন শুধুমাত্র হাই নিউজে। হাই নিউজ
Thank you.
নিরপেক্ষ।
হাই ক্লাসরুম নিবেদনে NTAE সলিউশনস।